how to start and scale a student accommodation portfolio in South Africa. Hi, I'm Jaco Grobbelaar, the founder and CEO of Prosperity Enterprises. And with me today, I've got Michael Brink, a very successful real estate investor, also a very successful real estate agent. Now, Michael is a multimillionaire and he has created his wealth through selling properties and then investing that money in student accommodation. And Michael is going to share with us today why student accommodation is so lucrative and how you can build your student accommodation portfolio. Welcome, Michael. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Jaco. I appreciate the opportunity and I'm excited for today.
Great. Tell us about your first student house. How did it all start?
So, Jaco, I remember I was still just started working and I was reading about property investments. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I also attended a seminar of Robert Kiyosaki, and since then I became familiar with the concept. I can actually buy a property using the bank's money to buy a property, and then the tenant can actually pay off the property for me.
OPM,
So other people's money. So I'm basically getting a property for free. So just using the initial cost that you need to cover. So when I heard of that concept, it felt like it's too good to be true. And then when I had my first decent salary where I could actually earn some good money and get a loan from the bank, I approached a real estate agent and said, I want to buy a property. And he actually presented me with a student house. And that's how the whole thing started.
So a little bit accidental.
So I'll say it was not planned going into student accommodation. I'm based in Potch. So the first opportunity that I had was a student house, and that's how it started.
Right. Why student accommodation? What makes student accommodation such a lucrative strategy for investing in property?
I'll say, Jaco, if you look at normal rentals, there's a one family staying in a house. If you compare it to student accommodation, in Potch you can get like 12,000 rand for a normal house, family rental. But if you take that house and you convert it to a student house, now all of a sudden you can maybe place 10 tenants in that home. Each tenant pays 3,000 rand per month. That's a gross income of 30,000 rand per month. So that's 3 times higher versus just a normal family. So the returns is exceptional.
So from a ROI, from a return on investment perspective, from a gross rental yield or a net rental yield perspective, student accommodation is just so much more lucrative than any other form of property investment, I would say.
Yeah, for me, so I'm a bit biased. I think student accommodation is the very best. I think if you take the average student house, it beats Airbnb, beats vanilla rentals, normally multi-lets. So currently in South Africa, I think student accommodation is one of the most aggressive or profitable investments that people can make.
Right. And you are investing in Potchefstroom. Where in the country would you say are the hubs or the opportunities for student accommodation investment?
So Jaco, I'll say it's all over. I did a bit of research. Potchefstroom is my specialty, but when I did some research, I see that in South Africa currently there's 400,000 to 500,000 bed shortage in student accommodation. So that's insane.
Right?
So I'll say each town has its opportunity. Obviously, some towns are more lucrative than other towns, but I know Cape Town has a big need. Johannesburg, there's opportunities. Potchefstroom, Bloemfontein, basically across the whole of South Africa, yeah.
Wonderful. Michael, every investment comes with challenges. Share with us some of the challenges that you've faced with student accommodation.
So I'll say, Jaco, student accommodation is not straightforward like you buy an apartment or a house and just rent it out. All of my student accommodation is focused on the NSFAS market specifically. So with a NSFAS house, you need to apply to certain rules and regulations. So the house is furnished. It has strong Wi-Fi, decent security. So basically the students can just move in with their own clothes and bedding and start their study. So it's a bit more upfront work, but the returns make it worth it. So as a property investor, you need to do some homework, what you need to do to get the setup right for it. But like I said, it's hard work, but the returns make it worth it.
And how many months of a year in general would your property be occupied?
So the NSFAS students pay a yearly amount. Whether they stay there for 7 months or 12 months, you get that yearly amount. So it's independable. If the property stands open for 3 months, it's okay because you still get the year's rent. So typically the students come end of January, beginning of Feb, then they stay there throughout the year and they leave end of November, beginning December. So in those open months of December and January, you can use to do some renovations at the property, some maintenance needed, upgrades. So you basically have those 2 months open every year.
Would you say that there's a risk to be dependent on NSFAS?
I'll say NSFAS is risky. I've heard some stories where owners don't get paid in other towns, not in Potchefstroom. I've been in the game since 2020. I've never had a student that where he's qualified for NSFAS where NSFAS did not pay. Some instances the students lied about their parents' income or household income, then they lose their bursary, but it was never NSFAS not paying. So my experience so far, if you comply to all the NSFAS rules and regulations and the students are happy at their accommodation, I think it's a risk, a
Now,
low risk investment option.
now, would you agree with me that a student is not your best behaved type of person? Do you sometimes have challenges with noise complaints or vandalism or damages done to the property or anything like that?
Yaku, so my experience with that is the normal wear and tear on a house and maintenance, yes, it's slightly higher than I'll say a family staying in a home. But the students, because they have NSFAS bursaries or they know that they're basically to complete their studies, it always or sometimes it feels to them they're not entitled, but they appreciate the opportunity to study.
Wonderful.
So
That's actually great, hey?
if they do something wrong and you correct them, they will
Listen.
listen. So if there's noise complaints, you speak to them about it, or the rental agency speaks to them about it. They comply. In our houses, it's also set up. There's rules and regulations on the walls in the houses. So when they enter, they see no loud parties after 10, no smoking, drinking. So they are fully aware of what is allowed, not allowed. And if you have the correct systems in place, you minimize that risk. The wear and tear is a bit more, but otherwise than that, not too much.
Great. Explain, we are talking about NSFAS or NSFAS as if everybody knows what that is. Maybe if you can just give a little bit of an explanation of how it works in South Africa, maybe a little bit of stats of how many people are actually government funded when they are studying, and how the process works, and then also maybe a little bit on how do you become compliant to actually have NSFAS students in your properties.
Okay. So NSFAS firstly, so if your household income, I think it's under 300,000 rand per year, then a student qualifies for a NSFAS bursary. So NSFAS, it pays for the accommodation, the studies, and all the extras. Basically, it's an initiative from South Africa empowering students to study. So it's an investment from the government into the future of South Africa.
I think it's a great investment.
Yeah,
Education
definitely.
is important.
Definitely. So basically, the NSFAS bursaries covers everything for the students. Now, they need accommodation. I know there's in Potchefstroom, the shortage this year. There was literally students lining up before the agencies wanting a place to stay, and then all the places were fully occupied. So the demand is so big, there's a massive need for specifically NSFAS accredited accommodation. Now, if you, let's say you buy a house or a apartment, you want to make it tick all the boxes for NSFAS. Firstly, you do it directly through NSFAS or through the university, depending what town and municipality you at. Then you get a rule or a list of things that you need to comply. So basically, it's a fully furnished apartment or house. So that means bed, mattress, desk, chair, Wi-Fi at a certain speed, basic security measurements.
In the kitchen, obviously,
Yeah,
fridge
washing
and a
machine,
microwave.
fridge, just that they can do their studies, cook, wash their clothes. Nothing too fancy, but all the basic needs should be met. Then when your house is ready, they come do an inspection. At that inspection, if they pick up something that's not in order, you get usually 2 weeks to correct it. Then they do a final inspection, and then you get a NSFAS accredited property. Now, when the students come, they have their NSFAS accreditation number, you have your property accreditation number, then through the portal, they fill it in. Usually the agency that you're with helps you with that.
So the rental agency is a very important team member here because they are actually helping you to place the students, I don't think it's something, unless you do it on a very big scale, that you want to do yourself. So you're going to get a rental agency that's experienced in student accommodation, I would assume, and use such an agency to help you with the property management side.
Yes. So Jaco, I'm fully dependent on the agency that we have. They do all of the hard work basically for me, getting students in, making sure the property is accredited and compliant for NSFAS. So at the end of the day, if the student house or the investment is not your full-time job, then you have to partner with a good agency that know that what they are doing. And with that, they check your property, make sure it will be compliant. They place the students in there. They vet the students to make sure they are compliant with NSFAS. They help with the rental collections. If there's maintenance, they inform you. So that whole process of things, they basically streamline it that it can be a passive income for you. It's an investment, like I said, not a full-time job. So without the right partners, it's gonna start being a job for you.
What would the average commission be of the rental that you would pay to a rental agency for that?
So it differs from agency to agency, but ballpark figure, usually there's a once-off procurement fee of R1,000 plus minus per student, and then 10%, 8 to 10% agency commission from the rental income.
Right. Structuring is very important. Now, Prosperity Enterprises helped you to structure your property portfolio. How did that help you to grow and scale your property portfolio?
So, Jaco, my thing is I never want to be limited. If I see a good property, I want to be able to buy it and do a good investment. And in the beginning, when I got into it, I did not know what I was doing exactly. But then I obviously came across you guys. You guys helped me with the structuring to buy a property in a company, make the shareholders a trust. So that whole process, firstly, it's asset protection, so that if something goes wrong, your property can't just be, they can't come after you directly, maybe just after the property. So it's asset protection. Secondly, it helps you with tax benefits so that you pay less tax. I don't think anyone wants to pay tax. So the third thing is also estate planning. So quote from you that you always said is, do you know how expensive it is to die? Now with the correct structures and systems in place, you basically take out that risk as well. And also, if you want to buy more than one property, you as an individual only have an affordability of, let's say, 3 million rand that you can borrow from the banks. But with that correct structuring in place, it may maybe allow you to buy 10 properties worth 3 million each.
Right, right. So you want to make sure, as an investor investing in student accommodation, that you've got the right structure in place. Now, at Prosperity Enterprises, we advise that you have a family trust, a holdings trust, and then a property company underneath the holdings trust. And that property company will then acquire the student accommodation. All the rental income, all the expenses, everything will take place in the company. But as Micael has said, the trust will be the shareholder of the company. Now, if you want assistance with your structuring, make sure to click on the link in the comment section and book a one-on-one consultation with us, where we can sit with you, where we can strategize with you, and where we can make sure that we set up the right structure for you and also look after the financials, the tax returns, the administration, the compliance, everything around your structure at Prosperity Enterprises. Now, Micael, when you want to go beyond owning one or two properties and you want to scale, how do you do that? How do you become an owner of a substantial portfolio like yourself and move beyond the limit of one or two or three properties?
So Jaco, firstly, your structuring should be in place that you buy properties in the name of a company or maybe different companies. And when that is in place, like I mentioned earlier, you maybe have an affordability of 3 million rand. Now, a trick here, I don't think the bank should hear it, but if you have a 3 million rand affordability, that means the banks are willing to loan you 3 million rand to buy a property. So a thing that I figured out to do is, if you buy a property for 3 million rand, then ABSA will maybe, for example, give you 3 million rand for that property. But in that same time, before that property registers, you can go to Standard Bank for another property, or FNB for another property, or Nedbank for another property. So you if your timing is correct, you can buy 3 properties at a time with that 3 million affordability.
You obviously need your own capital as well.
Yes, yes.
So where do you find funding to build your property portfolio?
So
Is that through the sales of your as being a rental agent?
So the first property, the profits thereof helped. I when I refinanced one of my properties, so you buy it for example 1 million, the bank see the value of that property for 2 million, so you can borrow an extra R1,000,000 on your first property and then use it for additional purposes. And I've partnered with other people as well. My family members, my sister, my father, we are in partnership with a few properties, and also have a colleague at work where we jumped into a few properties together. So there's many ways, yeah.
Refinancing is very important. That's why I always say that your most difficult property to acquire is your first one. But from there on, if you've bought your properties below market value, you can, as Michael said, refinance your properties, make capital available, and use that capital for the next property. And so each property that you buy can be refinanced and make the capital available for the next property to acquire. We also spoke of private investors and partnerships where you can partner with other people. If you want to build a substantial property portfolio, don't try and do it alone. You are going to need to walk with others to build and scale your property portfolio. Michael, talk to us about the operational side. There's obviously a lot of operations that needs to take place. How do you manage all of that?
So Jaco, I have people that help me. On my own, I would not be able to do it unless it's my full-time job, but it's not. So firstly, I have a personal assistant that helps me with if there's a maintenance issue, she has a team of maintenance people that can take care of it. Then secondly, the rental agency. So the rental agency work with the students. If there's problems, the students reported to the agency reported to my assistant, and my assistant has different people, plumbers, electricians, handymans, that can fix all the problems when they arise. So it's all about systems.
Great. Systems and a good team.
Yeah, a good team, definitely.
Great. If someone watching this video wants to buy their very first student accommodation, what would be the top 3 tips that you would give them?
So Jaco, there's a saying in property that always says location, location, location. So as a estate agent, sometimes I get investors that want to buy student accommodation, and they tell me they've been at this property with another agent, and I'm thinking that's like a horrible location. How could that agent even advise them? So I'll say do your homework, that you know what location is a good location to buy a property at. Preferably like within 2 kilometers from the university where you're at in the town. Then secondly, get an estate agent that you can trust, not someone that just wants to make the sale. Get an estate agent that understands student accommodation, that understands the rules and regulations, and obviously someone that you can trust. Then the third thing is I'll always check out the zoning. So if you're buying a student house and it's a normal Res 1 family home, some municipalities require that the property should be rezoned to Res 3 before you can buy it. So if you don't want trouble in the future, also check those things. Yeah.
Great. Tell us about some of the mistakes that you have made that others can avoid by listening to you today.
So a mistake that I've made with a few properties is when you convert a normal family house into a student house, is I did it on my own, so I didn't in the beginning have all the wise counsel that I need to do the optimal conversion to really maximize a property for its income. So after you've done the conversions, the property is converted, and then looking back, I could have seen, okay, I could have done this conversion and fitted in 3 more beds, and then obviously my income would have been much more. So if I could go back in time, I'll really make sure that I have right partnerships or mentors that I can learn from when it comes to student housing and property investing. Yeah.
What drives you personally to build your property portfolio further? Is it financial freedom? Is it passion? Is it something else?
Jaco, I'll say firstly, my wife likes shopping. So to take care of her, I need to.
Yes,
I'm only
absolutely.
joking. No, I'll say Jaco, so financial freedom is a big big thing for me.
We
The
work
more,
because we want to work, not because we have to.
yeah, you want to work. So the more money you have, the more freedom you have in sense of you can be a blessing to other people.
So it's not just about yourself.
It's not just
it's
about
actually-
myself. It's not about a fancy house and a fancy car. It's more fulfilling being a blessing to other people, being involved in a local church where you can advance God's kingdom. I can take good care of my family. I can be a blessing to other people.
Right.
You meet a need with student accommodation. Like I said earlier, there's 500,000 student accommodation beds. So if you provide those beds, you actually give students the opportunity to study. So at the end of the day, the more money you make, it gives you the more people you can help as well. So that is a big motivational factor for me as well.
Right. Michael, thank you for being on the YouTube channel today. If you like this content and would like to receive more of it, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Michael, we wish you great success and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Jaco.